Good
What?
morning, Summa scholars. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is Saturday, February 15th, the fifth week in Ordinary Time. So, Joe, my friend Joe,
Yeah,
how goes it, my friend?
it goes well.
Goes well.
Yeah, goes well.
Yeah. So, you know what I didn't know yesterday when we started the stream? That it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's true.
Having no intimate concourse with uh, the female persuasion,
Okay,
I
okay,
don't.
nerd.
I do not pay attention to such things. Uh, but you, with that ring on your finger, were very well aware of what day it was.
Right.
How did it go with you and the lovely Mary Kate?
It was good. Yeah, we had a good chill night.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, we nothing too crazy or exciting. Just sent all the kids upstairs and just had some good time together.
Nice. Did you watch a movie or anything?
We watched Arrested Development.
Oh, yes, of
Yeah,
course. That was a trip watching that over at your house a week or two ago because I haven't seen
yeah,
it so many years. And I don't really watch a lot of stuff
yeah.
like that, like series. I watch like little YouTube videos of reaction videos or whatever.
hmm
And so getting back into that headspace and watching it, Arrested Development was pretty fun.
Yeah. It's especially a really fun show too. It might be the most rewatchable show I've ever seen. Um,
Mm,
just because there's so many jokes that come up so early that aren't really looked at until like way later in the series and stuff like that.
yeah.
It's just
And how
it's
quick they come.
constantly.
You
Yeah.
can't catch everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. You know, my Valentine's Day, I realized it was Valentine's Day. I had to go out and get more coffee. I had no more coffee in the house. As you know, that's a serious situation.
hmm
And then when I went out to get coffee, I was like, why are there roses all over the place here? I had to go to the grocery too and get some more salt. And I'm like, why are there roses everywhere? And why are people carrying roses around? Like, and then I realized, oh, wait, okay, yeah. But, the beautiful thing, though, Joe, is as you know, I left the monastery 20 years ago. I don't know what it was, a long time ago, with the telling the abbot that I felt God was calling me to start a band, write a novel, study psychology and philosophy at the University of St. Thomas, and get married. And I thought the get married thing was going to happen quick. Nope, negatory. But but as you know, I've been looking for the bride, quest for the bride, and it would always be that seeing that kind of stuff would upset me. And then, but I realized a change. I was in there and then I realized I'm just happy for these people. Like I had no thought in my mind about where is she? Why not me? There was just no thought of me in the thing at all. I was just, oh, look at that guy. He looks like a cool guy and he's got roses. I hope they have a good night. And I was just walking through the grocery all happy. And then I realized, wait a minute. I'm walking around just completely happy for these people, not thinking about myself. That's good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
So as we said, you grow in grace slowly, as Brother Lawrence said. Can't move faster than grace. Um, what else? Is there anything you want to talk about?
Um,
How
no,
dark it
nothing that.
is? Because we're starting later in the day, it's
Yeah,
dark.
well, that's just part of it.
That's just part of the
No
charm
getting
of this
around
thing.
that.
That's part of the charm of this thing, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
it's
Daily
very
Summa.
charming.
It's very, very charming.
You're gonna eventually look like a villain, like from a movie. You look with this big silhouette. It's gonna be great.
I always look like a villain.
Oh, okay, sure.
I remember in university, I was told you I would go and observe the drama students because I was trying to figure out social skills, and I was a psych major, and I'd read about who has the best social skills, and it was a drama department, and so I would sit and watch them, and I got permission to just sit in when they
Right.
did rehearsals, and when they did they were finding the cast, and they had a guest director in, and I'm sitting there just observing. I'm not part of this thing. I'm off with my little notepad, making notes and observing them. In fact, Joffrey used to say, and I thought about this later. This is so interesting. Remember, this is like 25 years ago or something, whatever it was. I don't know what it was. Joffrey goes, you're like a troll that just sits and watches people and then makes comments. And I thought about that later. I was like, he used the word troll before it became a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody used that terminology, you're trolling someone.
Right.
He just kind of came up with that because of the messed upness of my situation. I've become a better and better person as time has gone on. But I used to be extremely cutting and hateful, and then and separated from the crowd. I didn't like. Well, I think they're called people. I didn't like those.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was sitting in this place, and we're going to the thing about me being a villain, and they're trying to find the villain for. I think the movie was. It's a movie that the guy who's in It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart, is in, where he's blind, or the woman's blind, I think. And then there's a evil person in the room with them. Everybody who's watching is probably screaming out the title of this movie, and I can't remember it right now. But it's very intense play because the girl is blind, and you know the bad guy's in the apartment, but she doesn't. You're watching it. And then he looked up at me, this guest director, and he was like, I want you to do the bad guy. I'm like, I'm not here for this. I'm just watching you people. And then he went back and forth with me, and then the other people turned around and said, yeah, you should try it. No, I'm not here to be an actor. But anyway, I am my face. Yeah, I have a villainous face. That would be something nice to write in the comments. By the way, people, if you're watching on YouTube, like the thing and just put some little comment like thanks or great or yeah, you do look like a villain. That guy's weird or something. That would help us out to push it out in the algorithm. Oh, also, I was wanting to say on Wednesday, I said Aristotle's 5 categories. I rewatched the video, and it's Aristotle's 10 categories. And then I also said Thomas thinks the forms are in the thing, and Plato thought they were in heaven. That's true, I guess, but it was really Aristotle. Noticing these little mistakes I make, it's sort of like it's an interesting contrast from being live with a band and live teaching St. Thomas Aquinas.
Right.
In the band, you're always making mistakes, and those are great. You turn those into gold. I mean, we even have it where songs collapse. That rarely would happen with us because we were pretty tight and played all the time. But if the song collapsed, start laughing, turn it into something, bring someone else on stage. Like, mistakes were great. And but here, I feel the same way about it. But I'm guessing there are some people, excuse me, it's not Aristotle's 5 categories, it's Aristotle's 10 categories. Who is this guy?
I mean, you did half the amount, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
It's a big one. It's a big mess up. It's not like there's no impact.
There's going to be bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
There's going to be bigger. Yeah, can't be.
By order of magnitude, it feels like a big one, but the impact
I
of it's not
said
there.
numerous times that there are 10 categories, but it was a mess up. But I think that we've made it clear that this is about catechesis and camaraderie. And also, that's the good thing about the daily part. Excuse me, just like meeting all the time over at the shop, we can correct things and work through things. It's supposed to feel like the organic, like Thomas in Paris, just hanging out on the stacks of straw, chatting with the fellas, working through things. But before I'm ready to go on this thing, but today's my free day, of course, so I want to go and start doing free things. And I have to still clean up all my stuff that I haven't fully sorted yet. But I do want to tell one quick story of an awkward social encounter that happened at the coffee shop yesterday. And then we'll get straight to Thomas. And I think we've got a good page today, the perfection of God, question 4, article 2, and going into article 3. It's going to be fun. So I'm in the coffee shop. I walk in the coffee shop. There's a cortado sitting there on the table. No one's there. And then as soon as I see it, I'm like, I want one of those. It had a beautiful green glass, like an antique green glass. It was on a little tray. Then they had the seltzer water beside it. Very beautiful for situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I want one of those. No, it's not a cappuccino day. It's a cortado day. But I couldn't remember. I was like, is that a macchiato? Which is smaller, but I couldn't remember. So the guy comes in. And he sits down at the table, and I go, is that a macchiato? And he goes, cortado. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks. And he goes, you didn't drink any, did you? Obvious joke, right? Obvious joke.
Yeah.
And I go, that would be a little over the pale, wouldn't it? And I said it like that. And he goes, oh, I know. I was joking. Clearly, I was joking. Like, I was doing the joke with the joke. And then so normally I don't have awkward social situations because playing in a band for so long, watching the great Yoda, Joffrey Muller, and how he handles social situations, I've learned. And that just rarely happens. But suddenly I realized, and the guy seemed like, oh gosh, I have one of these people who doesn't get humor. And I'm like, you're the dude that doesn't get that I'm. So my brain is going super quick. And I'm like, what do I do? So there's 2 options, it seemed, as I'm going super quick. I could go back to him and say, no, I'm joking. I know, I'm just joking. But that seems to make it a little bit more awkward. So I took the other route of just changing directions. And and he wasn't even looking at me anymore. He'd like, I'm done with this guy. And I kind of stepped into his frame of view. And I said, that would be pretty funny, though, if you just walked up and you could see the telltale signs that someone had sipped out of your drink. And you looked at me and said, did you drink my drink? And I said, no. And I had the white mustache. And he starts laughing. And then I go, yeah, man, thank you. Have a good one. And I walk off and I get my cortado. And it was awesome. And then when I left the place, he was still there. And I said, have a good day, friend. He goes, you too. But it was just one of those funny, rare situations where suddenly this social situation is strange and awkward. And we seem to extricate ourselves from it fairly well. But have you ever had a cortado?
No.
All right. Well, it's like a cappuccino, but smaller.
Why would I just want a cappuccino then?
It depends on how much milk you want in the thing. Also,
Okay.
It depends on if you want a cute little glass with a little seltzer water on a tray. That seems not your kind of. That seems the kind of thing that would annoy you.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
the smaller the cup becomes, the more likely I am to go postal.
Yeah, I know. And then also you would have to carry the tray.
Right. Yeah.
Big masculine Joe with this little tray walking back to his chair, trying to not spill it. It's like the lip of it is coming right up over the edge. Any little movement will spill it.
Well, and it should be remembered as well. Like, I'm big, but I'm also extremely clumsy. So the likelihood that I spill that little cup is high. It's through the roof.
Man, I almost want to get you a cortado next time we're in there. Just to mess with you, dude. With your little cute tray. And there was a little napkin under the seltzer water so you could pat the corners of your mouth.
I mean, none of that bothers me. It's just the fact that it's little. It's not the delicacy that bugs me.
You would be okay with a cute little tray? I feel like that would annoy you. I feel like you would be like, just give me the drink.
I don't know yet.
Napkin.
I don't know yet.
We'll have to experiment when you're back in town.
Yeah.
That'll be our experiment. All right, let's go on to St. Thomas Aquinas, and we're talking about. I'm going to do this.
Oh, whoops! I don't even have the right slides up. Hold on a second.
Oh
Hold
gosh,
on
Joe,
just a second.
man, we've been here for 30 minutes already.
I got the right slides. Look at
What
that.
have you
Bam.
been doing all morning?
Nothing.
Sleeping late's pretty sweet,
Legit.
isn't it?
Nothing. Yeah, it's great.
Isn't sleeping late sweet?
I agree.
And then tomorrow there's no Summa in the morning. Remember that, folks. Tomorrow Summa starts after Vespers, after we close out the Sabbath at 7:15
7:15
p.m.
That's right.
What a change. What a switch. All right. I'm just going to start at the top of page 39, Article 2, on the contrary, even though we don't even remember what the objections were. On the contrary, Dionysius says that God, in his one existence, possesses all things. Okay, I answer that. That was the argument from authority. Now let's hear the argument from rational discourse. All created perfections are in God. We can just stop there. That's pretty much what this whole thing is saying, but we're saying it in a lot of different ways under different aspects. He is pure act. Hence, he is spoken of as universally perfect because he lacks not, says the commentator, any excellence which may be found in any genus. He doesn't lack any excellence. This may be seen from two considerations. First, because whatever perfection exists in an effect must be found in the effective cause. As we've shown, things that cause things, you see something of them in their effect. Just like I talked about the molten ball of steel rolling over the pool table and hitting the racked balls would leave a trail of smoke and broken slate and burnt cloth. That's an effect of the molten ball. The weight you would see, the heat you would see its effects. Either in the same formality of it as a univocal agent, that's another kind of effect. You, Joe, as a human, when you make an effect with your lovely wife on Valentine's Day, the effect is another human. You make things that's univocal. This human nature and this human nature create another human nature. Whereas the ball rolling on the table does not create another molten ball, or like an amoeba making another one like itself. It's a different kind of effect, not univocal. It's a different kind. Univocal is like you having a son, and then he's going to talk about another kind of effect, like the bowling ball. Okay, univocal agent, as when men reproduces a man. Yeah, very good, Thomas. Or in a more eminent degree, if it is an equivocal agent. Thus, in the sun is the likeness of whatever is generated by the sun's power. I had some trouble with that because I was like, wait, how is what the sun generates like the sun, like plants and things? And then I thought maybe he's referring back to the medieval or Aristotelian belief that the heavenly bodies were made of different stuff. They're heavenly substances. They thought that it wasn't the same thing. Maybe he's saying maybe they think that the forms are coming out of the sun, but then that doesn't make sense because Aristotle said the forms are in the thing. So I call Rebard, and also I looked up some other study places, and we're talking about the sun's effects, meaning the heat and the light that comes out of the sun. The heat is like the sun. So that's like the bowling ball thing. The heat, it makes similar effects. The heat and the light are not the sun itself, but they're like the sun. The cold of an ice cube is not the ice cube, but it's like the ice cube. Now it is plain that the effect pre-exists virtually in the efficient cause, and although to pre-exist in the potentiality of a material cause is to pre-exist in a more imperfect way, since matter as such is imperfect and an agent as such is perfect, still to pre-exist virtually in the efficient cause is to pre-exist not in a more imperfect, but in a more perfect way. Mouthful. When Michelangelo goes to make the statue David, he has in his mind what he wants to do, and that is perfect. He has the perfect image in his mind of what he wants to do, and then he produces it in the marble. He's the efficient cause. He's producing the statue. The marble's the formal cause. The form of David, the muscles, the hair, the fingers, that's the formal cause. And then the final cause is his the efficient cause, Michelangelo's goal, his purpose. That's the purpose, to create that statue of David. It's in his mind more perfectly than it is produced, perhaps. Usually with most artists, it's more perfect in their mind than what it produces. And Thomas is alluding to that. It's more perfect in the efficient cause, virtually in their mind, than in the existence. Still, to pre-exist virtually in the efficient cause is to pre-exist not in a more imperfect, but in a more perfect way. Since therefore God is the first effective cause of things, the perfections of all things must pre-exist in God in a more imminent way. That's what we were saying about God has an image in his mind of Joe, but he gives Joe free will, and Joe is not living up to that perfect image, but that's part of the perfection that he wanted, so that you might have free will and come to be a loving being. So this imperfection becomes even more perfect, but on a different level. Dionysius implies the same line of argument by saying of God, it is not that he is this and not that, but that he is all, as the cause of all. That's what you hear Bishop Barron harping on all the time. That the atheists think, I'm far over because of the thing. The atheists speak of God as if he's one being among other beings. They haven't grasped, but they're starting to, and especially Alex O'Connor, which you know I love, is starting to, he's heard it so much, they're getting it that, no, we're not saying that. We're saying that he is being itself. And we arrive at that not by reading it in the Bible, which sometimes that does happen, but Thomas arrives at it by starting with visible things that we can see, forms, motion, and then reasoning back that there must be something that is unformed and is pure act. And that is a big old question mark, but we commonly refer to it, whatever it is God. And that thing, God, doesn't necessarily have to be the Christian God, although it is, but that's a different type of proof. We're talking about the philosophical God, as we've said. Second, from what has been already proved, God is existence itself, of itself subsistent. Consequently, he must contain within himself the whole perfection of being. For it is clear that if some hot thing has not the whole perfection of heat, this is because heat is not participated in its full perfection. But if this heat were self-subsisting, nothing of the virtue of that heat would be wanting to it. If heat were just pure heat, there would be nothing wanting for it because it would be the pureness of heat. But things in this world participate in heat to varying degrees. My coffee, when I first started it, was very hot, and now it is actually cold. It is not participating in heat at all. Since therefore God is subsisting being itself, nothing of the perfection of being can be wanting him. If you had full subsisting heat, it would be the fullness of heat, like to jump tracks, let's say the Platonic ideal of heat. But God is in fact that full being in which nothing is wanting, and all things flow from that original pattern, that original signet ring. Which, by the way, I have my signet ring off because I'm preparing for Sabbath. I don't know if you've noticed, but when Sunday comes, I take the signet ring off. Have you noticed that, Joe?
I have.
Do you remember why?
Well, it's a memento mori ring, right?
Ooh, Joe, you're so smart.
Yeah.
It is a ring about death, memento mori, and I don't wear it on the celebration of resurrection in life. Now, all created perfections are included in the perfection of being. For things are perfect precisely so far as they have being after some fashion. It follows, therefore, that the perfection of no one thing is wanting to God. Things are perfect in as much as they share being, but God doesn't share being. He is being itself. This line of argument, too, is implied by Dionysius when he says God exists not in any single mode, but embraces all being within himself, absolutely, without limitation, uniformly. And afterwards, he adds that he is the very existence of subsisting things. That's why we can't go. That's why this is milk of the word and a quick flyover, because you could go super deep into that whole thing. How can that be? If we are completely subsisting in God, then what's the distinction between us? We know there's a distinction. We are not God, but how does that work? You could go very deep into all of these pages, and that is not what we're doing now. We're doing the quick flyover and having camaraderie. Isn't that right, Joe? Hey, can you see the snow coming down?
Oh yeah, it's super clear.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
Yeah, it's a winter wonderland good thing
It is
going
a
on, dude.
winter wonderland out there, friend. And I can't wait to get out in it. It's a great blessing because that freeze, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's easier to walk through the snow than that
Yeah.
ice. That ice is extremely difficult and dangerous. I realized when I fell on my elbow that day, that's when I realized, oh, this could turn into real problems. And then before the freeze came, which we didn't know if it was going to be rain and then freeze, which would be horrific and terrible, or if it would
Mm-hmm.
be snow and then freeze, which is much, much better. But I didn't know if it was going to be even worse out there. And so I took a bunch of straw and I took also some salt, but I took straw, and on all the steep inclines, which would have been possible to get up, and I wouldn't have been able to get to the horses, and they wouldn't get fed, and they wouldn't get water. I took a bunch of straw and just placed it down those trails so that I would have something to catch my foot on all through the property. I made a little straw trail
Mm-hmm.
in preparation, but fortunately, I don't. I'll still use the trail, but I don't super need it because we have this wonderful snow. Bottom of page 39, reply to objection one. Even as this, is anyone watching right now, by the way? Live?
Let's see. We got a couple people on Twitter or
Nice.
X or whatever you want to call it.
I know that Jeremy was watching at the beginning because we were chatting through
Mm-hmm.
Facebook Messenger. And I also know that you see the views go way up like after the thing finishes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people are watching it not on the live stream. But
Right.
you should.
Yeah.
You should watch it on the live stream.
A vast majority of people are not watching it live.
Yeah. But even if you don't watch it live, you should definitely watch the day's Summa, that day's
Yeah.
Summa, and then
Yeah.
go back and binge watch the other ones. But stay with all of us here in this virtual class together on each day. Reply to objection one. Objection one, it seems that the perfections of all things are not in God, for God is simple, as shown above, whereas the perfections of things are many and diverse. As we said before with Larry's objection, in this world, the more complex something is, it usually has a greater nobility, like the human brain's more complex than the dog's brain, etc. So Thomas is going to apply to that. Even as the sun, as Dionysius remarked, while remaining one and shining uniformly, contains within itself first and uniformly the substances of sensible things and many and diverse qualities, a fortiori should all things in a kind of natural unity pre-exist in the cause of all things. A fortiori is with greater strength. So it's like how much more then? That there's the Jewish phrase that's how much more. If this be true, then how much more is that true? So if you show that um, 2 is less than 10, if you demonstrate that to a kid by putting out 10 apples and then taking 8 of them away, and then there's 2, and now he's proved 2 is less than 10, then how much more, a fortiori, is 2 less than 20? It's just saying how much more. So if the substances, and this is where I started wondering, and this is what I asked Rebart about, and it still seems to me he's talking about the Aristotelian view that the sun is of a different substance and maybe affects the earth in a different way. That's how I read it. I'd love for someone to explain it to me, but it says, just as while remaining one and shining uniformly contains within itself first and uniformly the substances of sensible things. It's saying the sun carries within itself the substances, which we said are like nature's dog, cat, sun, flower, of sensible things, and many and diverse qualities. Okay, that I could see, but is it really many and diverse qualities? It's light and heat that it produces. So it seems to me that Thomas is talking from old science that hasn't evolved yet. Explain to me in the comments if that's wrong. A fortiori, should all things in a kind of natural unity pre-exist in the cause of all things? Those substances, according to this, would be in the sun, and then they would exist in a less perfect way or flowing from that original source. And they would be diverse. Excuse me, got something in my mouth. Uh, and thus, things diverse in selves opposed to each other, pre-exist in God as one, without injury to his simplicity. Because God is pure act, these things exist in him in a different kind of way. They exist in him as the image in the signet ring that produces its effects. That signet ring thing is not a good one because that's how we speak of God with the divine logos. But that first archetype, that preeminent reality of God, carries within himself every kind of expression of that top perfection. I could go a lot more into it, but I just don't think it's the time. And I know it's unsatisfactory, the answer. But again, that's what we're doing here. A quick flyover so we can talk about it later at the cigar shop and go deeper in different times and different types of teachings. And then he says this suffices for the reply to the second objection. He just tells Ralph, to go look. And Larry, my answer to Larry is answered your question, Ralph. If you remember Ralph's question, further opposites cannot coexist. How can you have perfect heat and perfect cold in God? Because they are opposed to each other. And Thomas is saying the divine simplicity is such that all of these things, heat and cold, are manifestations of a relationship in God that is transcendent, and he is perfect being. So just as we said in the retreat, male and female are two different modes of humanity, but they are images that, if you meditate on them, can give you an intuition of what God is. He is the eternal Father, empties himself into the Son. The Son receives the fullness of the Father, and the love between them is the Holy Spirit. And so that is the image of male, female. The man empties himself into the woman. She receives the full potency of the man, and then that is becomes a third person. That is the representative of the hidden love between the male and the female. So even though you have diverse things, they're alluding to this top preeminent principle, which is ipsum esse, being itself, that which we commonly refer to as God. Reply to objection 3, Shimon. The same Dionysius says that although existence is more perfect than life, and wait, although Dionysius says that existence is more perfect than life, and life then is more perfect than wisdom, if they are considered as distinguished in idea, nevertheless, a living thing is more perfect than what merely exists, because living things also exist, and intelligent things both exist and live. Although, therefore, existence does not include life and wisdom, because that which participates in existence need not participate in every mode of existence. Nevertheless, God's existence includes in itself life and wisdom, because nothing of the perfection of being can be wanting to him who is subsisting being itself. It's essentially saying the same thing, but again, from a different angle. Shimon's thing was, if you have a rock that exists and life, a plant that's living and moving, is more noble than the rock, and the animal has a certain amount of intelligence and it's better than the plant and then the human on up. So God, the lowest in that chain is existence. So God, who is existence itself, must not be noble in some way. And Thomas is saying, no, you're not understanding it. He is ipsum esse, existence itself, and everything flows down from him as a as a uh, representation, or I want to say semiotic, as an as a representation of what he is in himself through this little game we're playing here on earth of discovering following the clues to see what this first unmovable mover is like. Seeing what God is not. Article 3. Whether any
Turning
creature
of the
can
page.
be... the turning of the page is sponsored by craigkinsey.locals.com. You know what? We could have it also sponsored by High Gothic Casual.
It's true.
Why
Still have
not?
a link in the description.
There'll be a link in the description. High Gothic Casual. Check them out.
Yeah, dude.
Article 3. Whether any creature can be like God. Objection 1. It seems that no creature can be like God. For it is written, there is none among the gods like unto thee, O Lord. But of all creatures, the most excellent are those which are called by participation gods. Therefore, still less can other creatures be said to be like God. Is that confusing to some people? What is he saying? But all creatures, the most excellent are those which are called by participation gods. You know, he's referring to in the Torah, it says, ye are gods. And then Jesus quotes that later when he says, does not scripture say ye are gods? It's a way of talking about, remember the word in Hebrew is Elohim, and that word Elohim is used in the first line of Genesis. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But that term, that same word, without any change, any different, the exact same word Elohim is used for leaders of armies in the Torah. So the word Elohim can be applied to God, but it also can be applied to any great person or leader, general. Therefore, still less can other creatures be said to be like God. All right, so we're going to hear a reply to his objection. Pretty good objection, I guess. Here we go with Ralph. Objection 2. Further, likeness implies comparison, but there can be no comparison between things in different genus. Therefore, neither can there be any likeness. Thus, we do not say that sweetness is like whiteness. But no creature is in the same genus as God, since God is no genus at all, as shown above. Therefore, no creature is like God. Yeah, pretty good. That's Ralph. Ralph's got a pretty good objection. Objection 3. Further, we speak of those things as like which agree in form, but nothing can agree with God in form. For save in God alone, essence and existence differ. Except for God, essence and existence differ in everything you can possibly imagine, except God. Therefore, no creature can be like God. Nothing can agree with God in form because he is wholly other. So then how can we be like him at all? Shimon wants to know. Shimon's got questions. Shimon's got to hear. Oh, now we have Reuben. We're going to 4. Let's see what Reuben says. Further, among like things, there is a mutual likeness, for like is like to like. If therefore any creature is like God, God will be like some creature, which is against what it says in Isaiah, to whom have you likened God? If therefore any creature is like God, God will be like some creature, which is against what it says. Well, you can see what he's doing, but we'll wait for Thomas to answer it tomorrow. But he's going the wrong direction. That's will be a common theme too. You can't go the other direction. And there's an interesting little question that comes up here that I broached to Mark McNeil that I would love to hear some theologians and logicians talk about. And that is, it's commonly held in logic and philosophy that when you say something is like something else, it means that this thing has qualities which are more perfect, less perfect than the thing that it's likened unto. Like if somebody is playing an Elvis song, they may say, and he's trying to imitate him, he may say he's like Elvis, but Elvis is great. He's just less. He's like him. And then the next guy comes along and he's actually makes his living as an Elvis imitator in Las Vegas, and he starts playing like Elvis, and he's really like Elvis. But none of them are Elvis. They're not. None of them are completely like. That term "like" usually means that the thing you're liking it to is greater. And then I asked Mark, well, then why does Jesus say The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. See the problem?
Yes, that doesn't work.
That
Doesn't seem
doesn't
to
work.
work.
That doesn't seem to work. That's making the kingdom of heaven less and the
Hmm.
mustard seed much greater. And then Mark looked up the Greek, and it still wasn't very clear. So I would just like to hear a machoikas is good. A disagreement, a confusion. That's the doorway to new discovery. That's why we hear and should be nowhere in anywhere in Christianity should you be afraid of hard questions. That's why we need people like Alex O'Connor, because the Christians stopped asking good questions. Okay, so we'll hear the answer to 4 later tomorrow. On the contrary, it is written, let us make man in our image and likeness. And when he shall appear, and then also it says in 1 John, when he shall appear, we shall be like him. That's always a profound scripture to me. And if you remember, it says, because we shall see him as he is. We shall be like him. That is the destiny of humanity. That's what we are now in a womb, and we're waiting to actually be born. It's important to realize. If things seem incomplete, incongruous, confusing, that's because it is right now. We're not at the end goal. If you saw Michelangelo working on the David, or if you saw Monet working on a painting, and at first, or what's that dude who does the happy little trees?
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. Sometimes when Bob Ross starts, it's just black on the just black with some gray or something in there, and then he begins to like push his brush on there, and it looks like a bunch of garbage. And then finally, whoa! All of a sudden, there's a tree. Wow! All of a sudden, this mountain range came out of nowhere. Um, he is the efficient cause, and he has the final cause in mind, but he's manipulating the formal cause, which is the painting, the image that you're beginning to see, and he's manipulating that with the material cause, which is the paint and the canvas. So you're watching this take place, but it's confusing at first, but not to Bob Ross. That's also what's happening on Earth. When you see politics, when you see strife in your family, when you see confusion and strife in your own self, just know Bob Ross is working on the painting. And it should be kind of confusing until boom, all of a sudden the tree appears, and then you start to see what's happening and see what's going on. And then at the end, when he returns, as Bob Dylan says, we will see what the finished painting is and what is happening in its fullness. All right, we're almost done with this page. Let's see how we're doing on time. 45 minutes?
Yep.
All right, I answer that. Since likeness is based upon agreement or communication in form, it varies according to the many modes of communication in form. Some things are said to be like, which communicate in the same form according to the same formality and according to the same mode. And these are said to be not merely like, but equal in their likeness. As two things equally white are said to be alike in whiteness, and this is the most perfect likeness. So he's just saying sort of what we did about the child is very much like the another human, but the bowling ball rolling on the table makes an effect that's not just like it. It's a different kind of effect. In another way, we speak of things as alike which communicate in form according to the same formality, though not according to the same measure, but according to more or less, as something less white is said to be like another thing more white. And this is imperfect likeness. Okay, so strike the other thing I said. He's now talking about the different the different levels of whiteness. If something is just like if two things are equally white, then that's a kind of likeness. And if something is more white and less white, just like in this image, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but this dove is more white than the halo. They're both
Mm.
white, but they're different levels of likeness. In a third way, some things are said to be alike, which communicate in the same form, but not according to the same formality, as we see in non-univocal agents. That is now talking about the bowling ball rolling over, and it makes a likeness that's not univocal. It's not just like it, it's a different kind of likeness. You know what? I think we can roll on it into this. And remember, tomorrow, which will be Sunday night, 7:15 p.m., tomorrow we have a short page. It stops low in the end, and then there's nothing on the back. So it's going to be a short page tomorrow, and we hope a short class, right, Joe?
We will see.
We will see. You don't have confidence in me that I can do a short class and not
Well, I
yammer
just
on?
haven't seen it yet, so
That's true. Something has to be manifested.
that's right.
Can't believe it if it's not manifest. Joe, have you anything to say before we say adios? And you want to guess what I'm going to do after this?
I don't know. Are you alluding to some hot tubbing, or are you alluding to work?
You know, I thought about hot tubbing, but well, today's a free day, so I'm going to try to work the least. But I do have to clean up everything in preparation for Shabbat tonight. But I'm going to go play some pool, probably
Very good.
smoke another pipe, even though
You
I've
should
already
keep
had
playing
one.
on that pool table. That'd be really good.
See, people watching don't know why that's a joke. We won't tell them. All right, guys.
That's good.
Remember, this is straw. This is straw. It's all supposed to lead you to contemplate these things, think on these things, and then go deeper into contemplation like the dove under the staircase. All right. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:15 for the Daily Summa. Adios, folks.